Hi, it's Eric from Real World Readiness. After a disaster, you may find that modern sanitation has completely failed you. You may find no running water, maybe no sewer system, no trash collection. For a short period of time, it's not that big a deal, but in the long term, this can lead to disease and outbreaks and infestations of vermin and mice and bugs and things like that. So it's something you need to have a plan for that a lot of people don't think ahead to. Let's talk about keeping yourself safe, healthy, and clean when the grid goes down. We're going to talk about personal hygiene, sanitation and handling human waste, trash disposal, and a little bit about pest control and keeping those things out of your life and out of your camp. All right, let's get started. Let's start with personal hygiene. It's important to keep yourself and your person clean. You're going to be working harder than usual because the grid's down. You're going to be hauling water. You're going to be doing more physical work. Everything takes more work than you think it will and when modern conveniences have failed you. But it's important to stay clean, both for your health, to avoid disease, and also for your morale and your comfort. You're just going to be happier if you're not filthy all the time. So personal hygiene is very important. Probably the first and most important thing of all your personal hygiene items is to keep your hands clean. Wash your hands before you eat. That's a big one. That right there is going to help you avoid the vast majority of your health problems. So keep your hands clean, wash up before you eat every single time. Now, not having running water is going to make it harder to do that. It's going to make it harder to wash up. It's going to make it harder to shower. It's going to make it harder to laundry. It's going to make it harder to do your dishes. But you're going to have to figure out how to do that because you can't just ignore these things. They'll just pile up and get worse and worse and make your life miserable at best, and at worst, make you sick. It's going to take water to keep your hygiene up. You can use water that you've stored, or you can use natural water sources as well, streams, rivers, lakes, ponds, whatever you have available. It doesn't have to be as pure as drinking water does. You still want to make sure it's strained clean and it's not fetid and just obviously nasty water. But for cleaning purposes, you don't have to worry as much about purifying as you do for drinking water. Another option, if you don't have access to a lot of water, is to use baby wipes. Baby wipes are a fantastic tool for keeping clean. You can actually give yourself a full body wash with 5 baby wipes. They taught us how to do it in the service. I'm not going to show you here, but the basics are pretty simple. You start from the dirtiest, warmest, sweatiest regions, work your way out, making sure to keep clean towels as you need it, and end up wiping your hands and your face, and boom, you can actually feel very, very clean and relieved after a small baby wipe wash like that. I know it's a weird thing to have on hand, but if you have those in your supplies you put by, you're a long ways towards keeping yourself clean. I also like to use these P4X tablets. I had a little clip about them here. They're just a dehydrated bamboo paper towel. They're super easy to store. They're super easy to carry. They're small, lightweight. They're heavy duty. You just add a little bit of water. As opposed to a baby wipe, they don't have the lotions. They don't have the perfumes. They don't have the chemicals in them, which I like about them a little bit better. So I've actually been using these instead of baby wipes lately. And of course, another option to keep your hands clean is the hand sanitizer. We're all familiar with that from the COVID days, but if you have some hand sanitizer on hand, that lasts a long time. It goes a long way, and it'll keep your hands sanitary, keep you from ingesting bad microorganism stuff through your touching your face and when you eat. So you can use that as well to keep your hands clean. But again, personal hygiene is more important than you think it is. Easy to let it slide. Don't. You're going to wish you wish you hadn't. But aside from just washing up, you're going to want to be able to shower and bathe as well. So plan ahead and have a thought on how you're going to do that. You're going to be working more. You're going to be dirtier. It's going to be harder to stay clean, and you're really going to appreciate a shower or a bath if you can make that happen. One way to do that is with a solar shower like these here. These are cheap, really expensive, and they work pretty good. When I was deployed with the Coast Guard in the Persian Gulf on an oil platform, plumbing was just, it didn't work. It was not good. But we lived on that thing for 90 days with nothing but solar showers and rudimentary sanitation, but they work great. You fill them up with water, put them in the sun, they get warm, hang them, and as long as you're judicious with your water use, you can have a pretty good shower with one of those. It's comfortable and you're going to feel clean afterwards. And they're cheap and easy to store. There are also these items. They're electric powered instant hot water camp shower. I just came across these. I've never used one. I've never actually seen one, but they look like a nice option if you have access to a power bank or some other way to get electricity into the unit. They burn propane to actually heat the water on demand. It's got a picture of it with a little bottle of propane, so it looks like it's probably fairly efficient. But again, I've never used them, but that'd be something to look into if you experience frequent power outages or you just want to have a little warmer, more conventional shower system. Don't forget too, you can just heat up a bucket of water and use that and a warm rag and a cup to wash down and rinse off with, and that'll be getting the, and that'll get the job done as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be complex. It can be just simple warm water and a washcloth can take care of you as well. And if you don't mind the temperature, you can always just jump in a lake or a river as well. One thing to be aware with that is that if you're using that same body of water for your drinking water, perhaps you don't want to be bathing in it, especially if it's a lake, a river, a stream, not as big a deal. It washes the way downstream, but if it's standing water, you probably don't want to be using that for your drinking water. And as long as we're talking about keeping your water sources clean, when you are showering or washing or dishes or anything, and when you have what they call gray water, which is wastewater that's not sewage, it's left over from washing clothes, left over from your shower, whatever it is, you want to make sure and have that water being disposed of in a way that it doesn't get into your drinking water. So you want to do all that stuff away from your drinking water source, at least 100 feet. And you want to make sure that you're not just dumping wastewater into your drinking water, because it's going to compound and obviously become a problem for your health. If it's got a long-term power outage, like you think you might be out of power for a couple of weeks or a month or more, you may want to build a shower facility. It could be as simple as just digging out a few inches of dirt, laying down some gravel to catch the water, putting up a few sides and a hook to hang a bag on or some kind of gravity-fed water system with a handheld nozzle. But if you do that, you can help with the drainage by putting gravel on the bottom of it so that it drains the water into the gravel instead of pooling up and running all over the place, and it contains it a little bit better and makes it more sanitary for the whole camp. Laundry is another thing that we really don't think about when we're doing our prepping and imagining what will happen if everything goes dark. But again, you're going to want to keep your clothes clean, and it helps to have some preparation for that ahead of time. It can be as simple as a wash tub that you put warm water in. You can still find old-fashioned washing boards and just scrub your clothes out like they did in the old days. It's going to be more work. You're going to be tempted not to do it, but do it. Again, a clean body is going to make you healthier and happier. It's going to make your life 100% better than just living in filth. So don't do that. Take care of your stuff. Take care of yourself. Okay, here's another problem that a lot of us haven't thought ahead to solve before it comes up, and that is what to do with sewage and human waste. If you're in a city, you're on a sewer system. And that sewer system is probably going to fail eventually in a long-term situation. Now, in a short-term situation, no matter what kind of sewer system you're on, whether it's a septic tank or a sewage system, you can still flush your toilet with water. You don't need the tank to be filled with running water. You can have a 5-gallon bucket and pour it into the bowl, and it'll flush that waste right down. If you've never done that, give it a try now and see how easy it works. It's a very good short-term solution. But if your sewer is backed up and it stops flushing, that stops working, that's not going to be a long-term solution, especially in a city when everyone is going to be trying to flush down into a sewer that's no longer hitting the lift stations. And short version, it's not going to be pretty. So you'll need some other solutions. If you're on a septic out in the country, you can probably continue to flush your indoor toilet using water almost indefinitely, because you don't need electricity for a conventional typical septic system. Now, some septic systems also have lift pumps in them, like a mound type system, and in that case you're also going to have eventually that flushing your toilet with a bucket of water isn't going to work anymore. So let's say for some reason you can't flush your toilet, either it's backed up or it's not working, or you just don't have the opportunity to haul as much water as it's taken for that. A medium-term solution for a couple of weeks or even up to a month or so, you could probably do what they call a cat trench or a slit trench. What this is exactly what it sounds like. You dig a trench in an area and you use that as your latrine. Now, when you're siting your trench, you want to make sure again that you're at least 100 yards from your drinking water, whether it's a well, whether it's running water, whether it's a pond. You want to be 100 yards from drinking water, and you want to be 100 yards from camp as well for sanitary reasons. Obviously, you're going to have raw sewage going in the ground, and you don't want to be spreading disease and getting sick from your latrine getting into water you're consuming or into your living area. And you also want to make sure any insects that are in the latrine aren't going into the raw sewage in the trench and then coming over into your camp and landing on you and on your food and on your tables and your surfaces and things like that. So that separation is very important, that you're not putting your latrine right next to where you're living, where you're storing your food, or where you're getting your water from. Now, to build this trench, it's really simple. It's basically a 1 foot wide trench, about 2 feet deep, and you can make it as long as you want. If you make it about 6 or 8 feet, that's enough to keep you going for a while. You can always expand it longer if you need to, or you can dig another one. and using it is exactly as simple as it sounds like. It's it's a little crude, but you straddle the trench and do your business into the trench. And then this is the important part. Once you're done with that, you take some of the dirt that you dug out of the trench and throw it on top of what you just left in there. It's important to cover that up because number one, it keeps odor down. And number two, it keeps flies from landing on it. Flies are a huge vector of disease. They land on excrement and human waste in the trench, it gets on their feet, they land on your food. Now the food's contaminated with bacteria, everybody's getting sick, and it's just a bad, bad situation, especially when the medical system is down and not working right. You can't afford to be getting dehydrated and getting sick. And it used to be a kind of thing that would kill a lot of people in the old days before we had proper sanitation, understood what it meant and how to prevent that. So that's basically the idea of a cat trench. It's a great medium time solution, and it's easy to do. It's fairly easy to take care of, not hard. Now, if you're in a long-term grid down situation, I mean, if you're talking a month or 2 months or 3 months, and that sounds extreme, but there are places in North Carolina that for months after the flooding and the hurricanes, we're still not back to normal. Still didn't have plumbing, still didn't have power. If we have a major event like a EMP or a Carrington or something like that, a solar event, you could conceivably have months without the grid, maybe even longer if everything has gone completely sideways. So long-term answer is the old standby like our grandparents used to use is dig an outhouse. And it's basically the same idea as the cat trench, only more sophisticated and more comfortable and more of a long-term, you're not going to have to redo it as often. It's the same basic idea. For an outhouse, you want to dig about a 6 foot deep hole, and you want it to be 2 or 3 feet wide and maybe about 6 feet long. Now be careful when you're digging this because that's a deep enough trench the sides can collapse on you, and you don't want them to collapse once you get the outhouse set up either. So that when you dig it, make sure that you're putting some kind of support on the interior walls of the trench. Usually just you could take a couple of long branches or logs and pound them down in there and slip plywood or boards or some other kind of wood behind that just to make a sort of a crude wood wall inside the trench. Once you got the trench done, build a bench over it, cut the seat holes in the bench, and you can build a shelter over it as complex as you want to keep the weather out and for privacy. And then the same thing, you use your holes into the trench, drop your waste down there, and again have either wood ash or dirt, and drop that down on top after you go, and that's going to keep the smell down again and keep the bugs from tracking disease out of the latrine into your living spaces. Same thing as with the slit trench, only probably even more so because you're talking a deeper hole and more waste over time. Make sure this is located in a good spot where you're not getting odor problems in your living area, you're away from your drinking water, and you're away from your food supplies and everything. So it should be a pretty on its own, out of the way. You see what I'm saying? Speaking of odor and insects, in addition to dropping the wood ash or the dirt on top of the waste periodically, if you make a lid for the holes that you sit on, or the seats are, so that you can put that closed on the inside of the building, and then run a pipe or a tube from the pit out the roof of the outhouse, that will allow it to vent out the roof, and it'll keep the smell from accumulating inside the outhouse, and it'll be a lot more pleasant to use. And when you're done with it, you can just fill it in. If it's long enough that you fill it up and you need another one, you just dig another one, fill the old one in. So don't fill it all the way to the top with sewage. Leave a foot or two. And once it gets within a foot or two of the top of the pit, cover that over with dirt, and don't forget where it is so you don't dig into it, and move your outhouse. Over time, that'll degrade into soil underneath there. It'll be okay. Now, all these things I've said so far are really much easier to do in a country or rural setting. If you're in a city, sewage is going to be a real problem. There's just so many people and so little space, and it's so dependent on the sewage system, which is likely to fail in a medium to long-term event. It's very likely the sewage will fail fairly quickly, and it becomes a huge, huge disease problem. You're talking cholera, you're talking all kinds of illnesses that are serious. I don't really have a whole lot of good advice, except if you can find a place to make an outhouse, or a slit trench. In the short term, if you can't use your toilet, make sure that you're disposing your waste appropriately. Use bags, bucket-lined bags is a good one. You can take the trash bags out and put them somewhere away from where you're living. Main thing is don't let the waste accumulate in your living spaces, because again, disease is a big deal when it comes to human waste and sewage. It will be extra important to watch your sanitation. Make sure you're keeping things clean. Make sure you're washing your hands regularly. Be aware that there's probably going to be a lot of insect-borne illness because there's just so many people and so much trash and so much open sewage in a situation like that that it's going to be really almost impossible to keep the flies from spreading it around. So sanitation, cover your food, and make sure that you have some way to not have waste accumulating in your living space. Even if you're in an apartment, like I said, a bucket with a bag in it is a great basic way to start with that. They actually make kits they sell at camping places where you can attach a toilet seat specifically to a bucket, or they have the toilets they use for people that are housebound and bedbound. The bedside commodes, you can get those, you can buy those from medical supply places. It's not pretty, it's not pleasant, but as long as you're disposing of that waste in a responsible way, it can at least keep you safe and healthy. Okay, let's talk about trash. If things have fallen apart to the point where trash service is not available, whoever picks up your trash normally isn't coming, whether it's because of a local disaster, it's broken the roads, or a long-term systematic failure and the trucks just aren't running anymore. In either case, your trash is going to pile up and you're going to have to do something with it. Now, the saving grace here too is if you're in a situation like that, it doesn't take very long until you quit making as much trash. You'd be surprised how much of the stuff we throw away comes into the house, goes out of the house, and once we're down to living our day-to-day, in a survival mode, you have a lot less trash. It's going to be a lot easier to manage, but you still have to manage it because if your trash accumulates, we have all the same problems we've already been talking about. Plus, trash will attract vermin, rodents and cockroaches and flies and things of that nature, all of which are disease vectors. The whole point of the sanitation is to keep you healthy and to keep you from getting sick. So we got to manage our trash appropriately as well. First thing I suggest is as soon as you know you're not getting regular trash collection, start separating out your trash. Keep things that are organic in one place, keep things that'll burn in another, and keep things that won't, like glass, plastic, things like that, in a third. And you can handle them individually to minimize the amount of trash you actually have to dispose of. When it comes to organic stuff, you may be able to use some of it. Like some of your food scraps, you can maybe use to feed pets or livestock if you have chickens or pigs or something like that, or even dogs and cats. Some of your food scraps you may be able to use to feed your pets. We'll do another video later about prepping for pets, but a lot of us forget to have enough food on hand for our pets if things go south, and we still want them to eat. We don't want bad things to happen to our animals, and if you have livestock, in addition to having your companion animals, you want your livestock to survive as well. So a lot of what we throw away could be used to help keep our animals alive if need be. Some of the other organic stuff, maybe it could be composted, and especially if you're looking at a long-term situation, you're going to have to start doing more gardening and growing, then compost will be very helpful. But you can compost it and it'll be a little more sanitary as well. Some of it you can burn, some of it's pretty wet to burn, but you can also burn other trash as well. You got cardboard, paper, wood, various items, anything that's flammable, you can gather that and burn it. When you do that, if you have a hot enough fire, you can burn a lot of your organic trash at the same time just to get rid of it so it's not out there rotting and causing trouble. There's always going to be stuff you can't burn. A lot of your plastic, your glass, your tin cans, things like that. Now, I know some of you are going to say you can burn plastic, and yes, plastic will burn, but it's just very, very toxic fumes. I'm not even talking about being bad for the environment. We're past that when we're trying to just stay alive. It's bad for you. It's just not there's lots of chemicals. It's not good. I don't recommend burning your plastic. I would take the things that you can't burn and possibly the organic trash that you didn't burn or feed your animals, and find a spot you can bury it. That's my best bet. And again, same as when we're talking about with gray water, same as when we're talking about sewage, you don't want the garbage pit to be near your water source, your food source, or your residence where you're living. So again, you're gonna have to find a place that's not super inconvenient, but also not close to those things. And it's more important for it to be away from where you're living and away from your water than it is for it to be convenient. But you can dig a pit and throw your trash in there, bury it over the top with some more dirt, and just keep doing that. Eventually, it's going to fill up. You're going to have to find out another place to put it. You may end up hauling it further and further from where you are. But if you bury the stuff that you can, burn the stuff you can, and use up or compost as much of the organics you can, that's going to take care of 90% of your trash problems. And like I said, you're going to have a lot less trash in a post-SHTF environment than you will now. And of course, try and minimize that even. If you can save some glass containers that you maybe emptied out and reuse them. By all means do that. Things are, in a long-term situation, simple things are not going to be as easy to get. You may be able to find you can reuse some packaging, whether it's for waterproofing things or storing things or building other things or crafting different purposes with. Try and be creative and don't throw out things that you might be able to use. Just make sure everything's clean and safe. Let's talk a little bit about pets and vermin. Talking rats, talking mice, talking flies, cockroaches, things of that nature. You want to minimize these things being around your living area. Not only will they eat your food that you need to survive, but on top of that, they're disease spreaders and they'll make you sick. And again, we really don't want to be sick in a world where medical system's not up and running and we need to work every day. The number one thing you can do to avoid having pest problems is cleanliness. Keep things clean, keep things put away. Don't leave open food around, don't leave food crumbs on the table, don't leave your trash out in the open, don't leave rotten food laying around. Just cleanliness, general sanitation, general wipe down your counters, wipe down your cooking areas, clean up your food mess, clean your dishes, don't leave dirty dishes around. That's 90% of keeping these things away. On top of that, store your food in closed containers that are rodent proof, that they can't chew through, they can't get into. If you do have problems with pests, then you're going to have to trap them and poison them and things like that. So ahead of time, as part of your preps, it would not be a bad idea to have some rodent traps, to have some mouse and rat poison, to have some fly strips, things of this nature. So if you do have trouble with pests, you have the things you need to deal with that situation. And again, proper management of trash and human waste is going to be huge for keeping your rodent and pest problems down. You know, like I said, cover up your waste with dirt and wood ash, bury your trash, burn your trash, keep all those things and your gray water away from where you're living, and it's going to cut down on the desire of these things to be in your living space. There won't be anything there for them. It'll be easier to keep them out. Okay, so that's a real basic discussion of field sanitation and basic primitive sanitation, so to speak. The principles to live by, again, cleanliness, huge. Keep everything clean, keep everything neat, keep yourself clean, keep yourself neat. Wash your hands all the time. Wash, wash, wash. Keep all that dirt and grime and bad stuff out of your mouth, out of your eyes. Store your food properly so it's not getting infested. There's a lot more that you can do, a lot more details as far as keeping sanitation up, especially as you have a larger group of people. The more people there are, the more difficult it is to maintain sanitation. And one of the resources that I thoroughly recommend is a U.S. Army field manual on field sanitation and hygiene. I'm going to put a link to that down below where you can get that on Amazon. I first came across this manual in the service when I went to field sanitation school for our deployable unit. And it has so much information. If you do have specific pest problems, it talks about how to keep your camp clean, how to lay out your camp for sanitary reasons. It's a great manual. I recommend getting a hard copy of that. And also, there's a link I'm going to put down below, and I'll probably try and get it here on the screen. But I came across when I was researching this video, I need to check, the New York Division of Military Affairs has an online version of the field sanitation class. And it doesn't appear to have a firewall or anything. I clicked on it, opened up, there it is, and you can go through and read a little bit more about sanitation for groups and camping. Obviously, both these resources are geared toward troops in the field, but the principles that they espouse are the same as what affects you and I if we're doing long-term sanitation in a grid-down environment. I think they're fantastic resources, and even though this is not a sexy subject like bugging out or firearms or storing food away, this is every bit as important as those things. Without good sanitation, you're going to get sick. And if you get sick in a world where a medical system is not working, you are in big trouble, especially if your family is dependent on you to be able to take care of them and keep them fed and watered, and all of a sudden you're not able to because you're down with an illness, maybe even, God forbid, killed with an illness. So learn your sanitation, even though it's not fun, and put aside some basic supplies so you're ready if you do need to provide for your own sanitation in the event that the system fails you. All right, that's all I got on this for now. I will look forward to hearing from you in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, stay safe, stay ready.